Welcome to the June edition of the Real Estate and Mortgage Outlook Show. June 28th. Summer is in full swing at this point. It is a beautiful day out here. No humidity. Super excited to talk to Nadia Evangelou about where the market is right now because there's a lot of, I believe, misinformation out there, a lot of moving parts. We're going to talk about what's inflation doing. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in pending home sales, and rates have gone up and down a little bit, so we're going to find out where those are. What are the expectations and predictions for the rest of the summer through the end of the year? And who knows, we'll talk about some other interesting things. What do we need to do to get more home buyers into homes? Because obviously as rates have gone up, people are not qualifying. So without further ado, Nadia Evangelou, everybody. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Nadia Evangelou, Senior Economist and Director of Forecasting of the National Association of Realtors. Nadia, thanks for joining us again.
Hi, Joe. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, I love it. We were chatting before, and I was telling everybody that a lot of people have started to find some really cool value in this, getting some good information. So I love what we're doing, and a lot of interesting things in our market that have been happening. So
yeah, indeed.
So yeah, let's start off with a loaded question here. So the biggest thing I get asked is people call me all the time and say, hey, I'm hearing words of a recession. I've heard it too. And some of these people have said, hey, I'm going to hold off right now. I want to wait and see. What are you actually hearing out there? We're hearing a little bit of chatter of that. So what's the pulse out there?
Indeed, like everybody's wondering if there will be like any recession like later this year. And
Right.
Actually, I'm by nature like an optimistic person, but data also shows that there's no evidence like of a recession right now. So
Right.
saving rates may have come down like recently, but households and businesses, business balance sheets like look good. And then
Right.
Also there is low unemployment, like unemployment rate, and it's back like to the pre-pandemic level at 3.6%. Which means that lots of people are working, so they have income. So as the Fed will continue to raise short-term rates, this increases like seems to becoming like into pretty like strong households and pretty strong like businesses. And then in the housing market, we have different conditions than back in 2007 and back like in 2008.
Right.
Back then there was like an oversupply of homes, while now we have a severe like housing shortage. And to give you an idea, back in 2007 there were about like 4 million homes, while like now there are about like I live like over 1 million homes. So we have totally different like conditions, and then the data shows that we should not like be so worried. With like that in mind, and that like mortgage rates will rise like even further, I don't see any reason like for buyers to hold up like from purchasing. It's still like, this is what we have to have in mind, like rates are still historically low, even though they're like higher than last year, but still like historically low.
Yeah. And that's a great point you bring up too, is the difference. You know, we did have an oversupply back then. And that's what I try to tell people is like back then, I mean, you had a ton of oversupply out there, stuff was sitting out there. Now it's much different. You still can't find homes for people. They're still waiting a little bit, although I think it's ticked up a little bit better. I've seen a little bit of movement, not a lot, but just the needles kind of all of a sudden it got unstuck and it moved a little. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's very good. We want to see like more homes.
Definitely. Now, obviously, too, I always get asked interest rates. Everybody loves to say, hey, where are they at? And obviously, they've dipped a little bit. We back under 6 a little bit, and it's obviously back up this week a hair. So some experts, I've watched a lot of shows. Some people said, hey, I think we're going to see 7% by the end of the summer. I know we talked a little bit about it before, but what are you guys hearing, or what are you thinking where rates are going to go, let's say by end of summer and then maybe by end of year?
Yeah, like mortgage rates showed little movement like this week, like the last week, remaining like below 6%. Like according to Freddie Mac, this is our benchmark. We follow Freddie Mac like rates, and we see that the 30-year fixed mortgage rate rose to 5.81, like 5.8 from 5.78. So it was a slight like increase that we have seen. However, we already mentioned that we expect the impact of the upcoming Fed rate hikes like to be more modest. Why? And let's take a look like at the previous like 2 rate hikes that we had. Like when the Federal Reserve like raised its short-term interest rates in March, mortgage rates like surged about like 80 basis points in the next like following like 3 weeks, and as a result the 30-year fixed mortgage rate rose from like 3.8% to 4.7% almost by the end of March. However, when the Federal Reserve raised its interest rates like again more aggressively like in May about like 50 basis points, mortgage rates increased by less than 20 basis points, and then rate fell to 5.1% by the end of May. Thus, the data shows that the effect of the Fed's rate hikes, like on mortgage rates, was smaller in May than in March. And what we see so far, we see the same like trend. We see like after the Fed raised for the 3rd time like interest rates, mortgage rates rose sharply, but last week they slowed down, and it seems that mortgage rates have already priced in some of the effects of the upcoming like Fed's rate hikes. So I expect the mortgage rates to surpass like 6% in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have like the inflation, the new inflation like data like for June to come out. So they will surpass like 6%. However, I don't expect to see like the same like sharp increases that we have back like in March and April. So yes, they were gonna increase, but at a slower pace.
Gotcha. And I think I know we talked about kind of year's end. I know you guys were thinking somewhere maybe like kind of hovering 4.9, 5, like low 5s. Is that still on target? Do you think we're probably staying somewhere at the high 5s, maybe 6s by year's end? Or...
Yeah, we think about like 5.8% by year at the end of the year. So yes.
Yeah, still historically low. I mean, I know it's hard sometimes to say that to people because that's the thing people ask me, say, wow, they've really jumped. And I said, but if you look in the grand scheme of things and you look at the charts, it's still pretty low, and you can always, if they drop, you can always refinance down the road. It's cyclical, you know, they go up, they go down, and there might be that potential opportunity down the road. So good stuff. I loved your article that you had out there about affordability of homes. This is something that I've actually seen an impact on too, from some people getting out of the housing market right now. And I know you published that buyers earning about $75,000 can currently afford about 25,000 fewer listings that are out there. Do we see this trend continuing with inflation remaining high through the remainder of the year? Because I have a lot of borderline people and they're always like, well, I'm just going to hold off a little bit. I'm going to save up some more money. So I'm seeing that effect. And I think it's borderline people and people who are right around that level. I do see that too, where they're just like, yeah, I think I'm just going to wait a little bit.
Sure. This data that you mentioned is from April's data. And now like we have May's data. And what we see is that, again, that although inventory is improving, not all buyers can afford to buy these additional homes. Like buyers need to earn about like at least like $125,000 like dollars, like in order to afford to buy these additional homes. And specifically, we see like inventory is about like 30% like higher in May compared to January. And this translates to about like 110,000 like more listings, additional like listings. However, middle and lower income buyers can afford to buy fewer homes. And the new figure like from the May data we see is that there are about like 16,000 like fewer listings that these buyers can afford to buy compared to January. And in contrast, what we see is interesting that for buyers who earn like more than their income is about $200,000, they can afford to buy 75,000 additional like listings compared to January. So it's very promising to see these additional homes to be available in the market, but more entry-level homes are needed. So this is what we want to see. So we can help like first-time home buyers and like lower income like buyers as well to benefit from this like more inventory. However, what we advise is that if buyers are financially ready, so they will go ahead and do it, because indeed, we expect inflation to slow down, and according to Fed, is about like at the end of the year to be about like 4.3%. However, it still like remains like very elevated, and then mortgage rates will be higher. So it depends on the financial like condition like of its like a buyer.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. You bring up a great point, like new, the kind of entry level homes. And that's exactly the impact I see. A lot of the first time home buyers right now are just sort of like, okay, I'm stuck. They were relying maybe on a down payment assistance program. Obviously those rates have gone up a little bit. I mean, there are some what they call non-QM programs out there for people that could work, if you're self-employed, so that helps. But still, I think you're right. We got to see more of those entry level homes, definitely come on the market for sure. So I like the little number I saw. The little jump was the pending home sales went up 0.7% in May. So that was kind of good to see. It snapped 6 months where we saw things down, but we're still down over year. And I thought what was interesting too is like the Northeast, like our area here, and then the South really experienced a lot of these increases. Is there any insight that can be gained from that? Like what specifically caused that?
Yeah, we should not forget that seasonality trends like are back like to the housing market. So that's normal to see like more home sales and like pending contracts like during the summer months. However, I expect to see a larger like reduction of home buying activity, because this is what we have seen like in the last 6 months from pending contracts and from home sales in the last like 4 months. But I expect to see like a higher like the reduction of home buying activity after the summer months due to higher like mortgage rates. Like millions of buyers are out of the market, as like home buying has cost about like $800 like extra every month compared to the beginning of the year. So there are like millions of like buyers that are priced out or out of the market because they cannot afford to buy a home. So for that reason, we expect like larger reduction, especially after the summer months. Right,
I agree. Yeah, and you see that, and I think we've seen a little bit of talk next about the median sales price too, because I think it goes hand in hand. I mean, I've started to see people put listings out there where, hey, price reduction, and I was like, wow, like I saw it a week ago, and then I saw 3 or 4. Like in the Wilmington, Delaware area, and I saw something right outside Philadelphia, a higher price market, where they're like price reduction. And now the person said, hey, we'll pay $3,000 of the buyer's closing costs. It's like, interesting. So we've seen a little bit of shift. So that seems like a little bit more normal. But I know with May's median existing home sales price, it was a 407,600. So it's still 14% increase from 1 year ago. So I know we talked about this before too. We still on track to see prices level to that 12% range, probably, or dip a little further maybe, or?
Indeed, like home prices continue to rise very fast. And as you mentioned, like prices exceeded, like reached a new record high, like exceeded like $400,000 for the first time in history. And typically rising mortgage rates like cause home prices to cool. But we don't see that now. But why? Due to the severe like housing shortage. So we expect home prices to continue to rise, but at a slower pace. And by year end, like to give you like an estimate, like a figure, by year end about like 5%. So to be like higher about like 5%. So when we compare the median sales price in December 2022 with the price like in December 2021 to be about like 5% like gains. Like housing market has shown like signs of cooling, as we already mentioned, like many buyers are priced out. Also, some other buyers are looking for lower priced homes since they cannot like afford to buy the home that they could like before due to rising mortgage rates. Like they look for more affordable homes. Like put simply, like a higher mortgage rate now like means a lower price tag. Specifically, buyers actually can afford to buy about like 25% less expensive like homes than at the beginning of the year. Like for instance, the typical buyer could afford to buy a home for $360,000 with a $1,400 like monthly payment at the beginning of 2022. However, current buyers can afford to buy homes of about like $270,000. So about like $90,000 dollars like less with the same payment, with a $1,400 like monthly payment.
Gotcha.
And nevertheless, home prices continue to rise, making like even like more difficult for them to find these homes like at this price level. So for that reason, we expect to have like slower price appreciation, but we don't expect like home prices to drop.
Right. And what would, and you brought up a good point about, the sort of entry level homes. So like what would really need to happen? We obviously need to see more inventory, probably more people selling homes and saying, okay, I think I'm going to sell an upgrade now, and something like that. Or
yeah, we want to see like, and actually in a balanced market, we want to have about like 6 months like supply, where currently we have about like 2.6 like months.
Yep.
And looking at the data, we had 6 months supply back in 2012, and then there were about like 2 million homes. So what we want to see, it's like we want to see about like that kind of like inventory, to have about like 2 million like homes available for sale. However, currently we have 1.1. So of course, like rising mortgage rates can make like many homeowners to increase the stay-in effect and make like more reluctant for them like to buy, to sell their house and go and buy like another house. So this is one of I think the challenges because they refinanced, like for example last year, so they cannot find again the rate of 3%, and we don't expect to have again like 3% like mortgage rates or below 3%. So it's very challenging. This is but it's great to see like construction is rising, slightly rising, and this can help of course with the inventory. And indeed we see like inventory is rising, and it seems that the worst from inventory have been ended. So we want, but on the other hand, as we mentioned, because we need to take a look at what kind of homes are out there, we want to see like more entry level like homes.
Gotcha. No, that's a great point. And that's what I run into a lot of too, is like I get calls where people say, hey, I'm definitely looking to buy, what are the rates at? And then when you tell them and they kind of know, they're like, well, I got my 2.75 on a 30-year, year and a half ago, and I love it and it's great. And, we try to coach them and say, well, if you really need to upgrade, what's your goal here? If you need to upgrade and you need more space, do a renovation loan, the rate's going to be higher, or maybe it is time to look, or you find a piece of land, build, do construction, things like that. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And we always say too, rates are cyclical. Sure, we're probably not going to see 2% for a very long time. Who knows? But if things drop back a little bit, let's say you're in the 6s and you drop back to high 4s, low 5s, there's still an opportunity to save some money there down the road. So that's what we try to coach them on too, is like,
and then we can also think like, for example, for investors like mom and pop investors, if we offer some incentives for them like to sell their home, the homes that they own, so that could release like more homes like and be available in the market. And what I mean with the incentive, like for example, to lower like the capital gains, so to have like a reason to do that. And this could help like the inventory. We could have like more homes, especially like for first-time home buyers.
That's a great point you're bringing. Yeah. And the last question we have here is, I know we just touched on a little bit too with the housing inventory in May, where we're about 1.16 million units. So we're definitely lower. I mean, it's a 12% increase from April, which is good, but we still need to be over at least 2 million, you think, to really see a little bit of something? Okay.
Yeah, but we have to have in mind, okay, we have like 1.1 now, 1.16. It takes time. It will take like about like a couple of years, like to build all these homes and to have like that amount of homes that we need. But in a balanced market, this is what we want to see, to have like about like 2 million like homes in order to be more balanced like with the demand.
Right. And do you think we'll ever see kind of the 4 million range again, or probably not? Probably somewhere is sort of 2.5 million, maybe like a normal kind of number that we want to see? Or
if we're able to see about like 2 million, that will be great.
Yeah, we'll all be celebrating. We'll be happy.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this has been good. I'm really glad we touched on a lot of these points. These are a lot of the things people ask me. I always put it out there and say, hey, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And people, I think some people have said they feel a little bit better. They're seeing things, less people obviously bidding. And I think some people though that have gotten out of the market, there's some positive and there's some silver lining. Yes, inflation's up, but some of them said, hey, look, I'm going to just try to pay some stuff off. I got small credit cards. I'm going to figure out a way to pay it off, decreases my debt to income ratio. So we're trying to help people that way too, to say, hey, there's options out there down the road. So if you don't need a home right now, maybe you wait a little bit and kind of reset your goals and see where you are. So
and this is what we see. It's still like competitive. The market, housing market, is still competitive. It's about like 4.8 like offers per listing.
Yeah.
And we want to have like about 3 to 4, and then but it's like down from last year that it was like about like more than 5. It was about like,
I remember it was like one house was like 20, and earlier this year was like 14. And I've been working with somebody for about 4 months now, and we've come down. It's funny, we kind of laugh. We're like, okay, you own the 6th home you've seen, and now you're down to like, I think 4 bids, and she still got outbid. It was a cash offer, but I said, look, we've come down from like 15, 16, so that's a good thing. So we're getting there.
Yeah,
so,
we're spoiled, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and everybody's spoiled with the, the 2.9 rate, and it's funny, but this has been good. So I always appreciate our time. I think we really get into some good topics, and you bring some great clarity here. So this has been good.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Nadia Evangelou, Senior Economist and Director of Forecasting at the National Association of Realtors. Thank you again, Nadia.
Thank you, Joe.
That was a great discussion. Thank you again, Nadia Evangelou, Senior Economist and Director of Forecasting at the National Association of Realtors. A couple key points that Nadia brings up. Obviously, as rates have gone up, home prices are still up very high, highest they've been. There are a lot of people, obviously, that do not qualify anymore for homes. And we talked about the entry-level home market. That's where it needs to change. And with inventory at 1.16 million, we need to see it go up even more. And it was interesting to kind of hear where rates are going to be. We definitely believe they're going to go back up over 6 soon in a few short weeks here, and probably hover at that level for some time, and then eventually probably trickle down, like she said, the high 5s, like 5.8, maybe 5.9. We'll see where things go. But interesting point she brings up too. What do we need to do to get people to sell their home? Because obviously, as we talked about, all of you out there, you got a great rate in the 2s, even a 15-year. I gave people almost 2 years ago 1.875, 1.99 on a 15-year. So why the heck would you want to move, or why would you want to sell your home and get a higher rate? Well, obviously, what needs to change there, maybe some incentives, lowering capital gains. That's a great point by Nadia, and who knows what's going to happen. But again, really key points on where the market's going. I think we're going to be in some turmoil for a little while here until this sort of rights its ship. Inflation's still very high, and it's got to come down. And as she said, probably 4.8 by year's end. So that's more normal. And hopefully we'll start to see the market shift and turn around at that point. But we're still a ways away. And I think the key message here is patience for everybody. I get it. Trust me, we're all feeling the pain at the pump, the pain at the grocery store. I hear it and I feel it from you guys. It's hard to buy a home right now because prices are up, but definitely keep saving, look for ways. There's opportunities out there. If the grant program doesn't work or down payment assistance doesn't work, there's always gift money from family. So there is that option if you're still interested in buying a home. But if you don't need to buy a home right now, then maybe it is time to wait a little bit, back up the truck, save some money, and regroup and figure things out. And that's where we can come in. We can point you in the right direction. We can help with getting your credit score up. We can help with a lot of different things. And that's what we want to do. And I really believe that this information is critical to get out there, because I still say there's so much misinformation going out there right now. And I don't like it. And hopefully you guys find value in all of this. And hopefully we are providing some good key numbers and data out there on a national level. And also talking a little bit regionally where we are here in the Northeast and Delaware and Pennsylvania. But we want to kind of really set the tone and really help educate all of you. If you're a realtor, you're an investor, first-time home buyer, or repeat buyer, we want to give this information to you. So drop us a line, put some information out there as to what else you'd like to see. Your questions are always welcome, and we thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon, everybody.